Today we're going to be talking about, is it worth it to build a backyard setup? Should you spend all of your money and your time building one, or are there any other better options for progressing your skiing in the summer? First of all, how much do they cost? Now it's going to vary a little bit depending on how big you build your setup, what materials you use. If you use something like a synthetic ski surface like M-Snow, if you use something like turf, it's going to be a little bit cheaper. And then just depending on how big it is as well, usually the bigger setup you build is going to be a little bit more expensive than a smaller setup. Now I've made a video on how I built this before, but I'm just going to run through it quickly. First of all, I made the platform out of about 40 2x4s and 8 sheets of 1/4-inch plywood. For the synthetic ski surface, I use M-Snow. I have a medium and a large kit of M-Snow. Then we move on to the rail. It's a little bit dirty right now, but I used some more 2x4s, dug them into the ground, as well as two 10-foot PVC pipes. They're 6 inches wide, which moves on to our landing, which is just a big piece of turf. So everything totaled together, the wood, the M-Snow, the PVC, the turf, everything comes down to about $1,200, which seems like a lot because it is, but this is more on the higher end of setups. It's a pretty big setup. My first setup I built was probably half the price of this, and you could probably do a setup similar to this with about $300. The biggest price factor is just going to be the synthetic ski surface that you use. M-Snow is going to be a bit more expensive, so something like turf is going to be a lot cheaper. And then it's also just going to depend on how big you build it. Mine is pretty long. It's probably about 25 feet long, 8 feet wide, so it's pretty big. The bigger you build your setup, the more expensive it's just going to cost because the extra materials that you're going to need to use to build it. Now, who is a backyard setup actually for? If you're already pretty good at rails, you might just want to consider getting something like a trampoline instead. For me, my second year skiing, I was already pretty good at rails, and I actually probably just should have got something like a trampoline to practice for jumps on skis. So if you're already pretty good at rails, getting something like a trampoline might actually be a better option than getting something like a backyard setup to practice your rail tricks if you're already good at them. But if you're not that good at rails yet, or you already have a trampoline and you want to get better at rails, building a backyard setup is definitely going to be huge, and you can make a ton of progress in the summer on your backyard setup practicing your different rail tricks. Now if you're like, well, I want to practice my rail tricks, but I don't have the yard space, or for whatever reason you can't build a backyard setup, there's a couple options that you can do instead. For example, you can build a jib rail and you can just practice visualizing your tricks, just doing them in your shoes or whatever. The problem is you're not actually going to be able to learn any new tricks with this. It's just more about the visualization of different tricks. Another option is going to be slackline. Actually, I think slackline works a little bit better for jump tricks, like doing flips off of it and stuff. But it does sort of resemble a rail, except it moves a little bit. But it's better than nothing. But if you're talking about the best option that actually translates directly to your skiing, backyard setups are always going to win, and it's going to be the best option for that for sure. So overall, if you want to get better at your rails this summer, a backyard setup is definitely just going to be the best way to do it. There's just no match to a backyard setup. I mean, it's just in your backyard. You can ski on it whenever you want, and you can make a ton of progress on one of these. And if you have the yard space and the money and time for it, it's definitely going to be worth building one of these. And if you want to progress your skiing this summer, you can check out my coaching program where you get direct feedback from me in there, so you don't always have to guess what you're doing wrong. It's a top link in the description. Peace.